Caleb Weston dropped to his knees in the frozen hay. His hands, steady enough to shoot a man dead at 50 yards, trembled as he touched the little girl's face. Ice cold. She couldn't be more than 6 years old, and she was wrapped around two smaller bodies like she alone could save them from death. Their mother lay beneath all three, her lips blue, her breath barely there. 4 lives fading in his barn on New Year's Eve, 1887. Caleb hadn't prayed since he buried his wife and baby girl 8 years ago. But kneeling in that hay, watching a mother die for her children, he whispered the only word left in him. Please. If you want to follow this story to the very end, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story travels. Now, let's continue. The wind hit like a fist when Caleb pushed open the barn door. His lantern swung wild, throwing shadows across the frozen walls. 8 years of the same routine. Check the horses, secure the gates, walk back to an empty cabin. Same silence, same nothing. But tonight, something was wrong. The barn door had been open. Not much, just a crack. But Caleb had closed it himself at sunset. He remembered the weight of it, the way the latch clicked. "Easy, girl," he murmured to his mare, who stamped and snorted in her stall. "What's got you spooked?" Then he heard it, a sound that didn't belong. Weak, barely there, like a wounded animal crying in the dark. No, not an animal. A child. Caleb's heart slammed against his ribs. He raised the lantern and followed the sound. The hayloft. Something was in the hayloft. He climbed the ladder fast, the old wood groaning under his boots. The cry came again, thin, desperate. At the top, he swung the lantern wide. What he saw stopped his breath. A woman lay curled in the loose hay. Young, maybe late 20s. Her body wrapped around 3 children like a shield. The oldest girl, maybe 6, clung to her mother's dress with one hand and held a smaller child against her chest with the other. A toddler, maybe 3. And pressed against the woman's breast, a baby. Couldn't be more than a year old. None of them were moving. "Jesus," Caleb whispered. He dropped to his knees beside them. The woman's lips were blue. Her skin felt like winter itself. But her chest rose and fell. Barely. Still breathing. The oldest girl's eyes flew open. She screamed, "No!" The child scrambled backward, dragging her sister with her. The baby still clutched against her thin chest.
"Don't touch us! Don't you touch my mama!"
"Easy, easy." Caleb held up his hands. "I ain't gonna hurt you. I'm trying to help."
"That's what they all say."
The girl's voice cracked.
"That's what the man said before he left us, before he took our wagon and left us to die."
Caleb's jaw tightened. Someone had abandoned them, left a woman and 3 children in the middle of nowhere in the dead of winter. "I ain't that man." He kept his voice low, steady. "My name's Caleb Weston. This is my land, my barn. I found you here, and I'm gonna get you warm. But I need you to trust me, just for tonight. Can you do that?" The girl stared at him. Her eyes, even in the dim lantern light, were sharp, watchful. The eyes of a child who'd learned too young that the world was cruel.
"Grace,"
she said finally.
"My name's Grace. This is Lily, and the baby's Ruth."
She looked down at the toddler in her arms, then at the infant still pressed against her chest.
"Lily won't wake up. And Ruth..."
"Ruth stopped crying an hour ago. She ain't moved since." Caleb looked at the children. Lily's face was too white, too still. And Ruth... His throat closed. Ruth looked like Emma had looked, in those final hours, when nothing he did could save her. They're breathing, Caleb said, checking quickly. But they're real cold. We gotta get them inside. All of you.
Mama won't wake up neither.
She will, but not if we stay here. Caleb shrugged out of his heavy coat and wrapped it around the unconscious woman. Then he paused. Grace, I'm gonna carry your mama. Can you hold Ruth real tight and follow me? I'll come back for Lily.
No.
Grace's chin lifted.
I can carry them both. I always carry them both.
Something cracked in Caleb's chest. This child, 6 years old, carrying the weight of 2 lives like it was nothing, like she'd been doing it her whole short life. I know you can, he said quietly, but tonight, you got help. You ain't alone no more. Grace stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded.
Don't drop her, she said. Don't you dare drop my mama.
I won't. Caleb lifted the woman. She weighed nothing. Too thin. Her body had burned through everything keeping her children warm. He cradled her against his chest and started down the ladder. Grace followed, moving careful and slow. Ruth pressed against her shoulder, Lily's hand gripped in her own. The toddler's head lolled, but Grace held on like her life depended on it. Because it did. The walk to the cabin was the longest of Caleb's life. The wind cut through his shirt, froze the sweat on his back. His arms burned from the woman's weight. But he didn't slow down. Couldn't slow down. Inside, the fire had burned low. Caleb laid the woman on the rug near the hearth, then turned to build up the flames. Kindling first, then split logs. The fire caught, grew, threw heat and golden light across their pale faces. Bring Ruth here, Caleb said. Close to the fire, not too close. Grace obeyed, settling on the rug with the baby in her arms. Ruth's lips were blue, her breathing shallow, fast.
She's real sick, Grace whispered. She's been coughing for days. Mama tried to keep her warm, but...
How long you been out there, in the cold?
3 days? Maybe 4?
Grace's voice dropped.
I lost count.
3 days, maybe 4, in weather that killed cattle overnight. You're a brave girl, Grace. Caleb grabbed blankets from his bed, wrapped them around the children. Real brave. Grace didn't answer. She just held Ruth tighter and watched him with those sharp, suspicious eyes. Caleb turned his attention to the mother. Her breathing had steadied some, but she was still too cold. He worked through the night, warming water, applying it to their hands and feet. Slow, careful. Too much heat too fast would kill them. Lily woke first. She opened her eyes and started crying. Not loud, just a weak, confused whimper.
Shh. Grace pulled her close. Shh, Lily, we're safe. The man found us.
Lily looked at Caleb with wide, frightened eyes.
Want Mama, she whispered. Mama's right here. Grace pointed to the woman on the rug. She's sleeping. She's gonna wake up soon. Promise?
Grace hesitated, just for a second. Then she nodded.
Promise.
Caleb's throat tightened. This child, making promises she couldn't keep. Carrying hope she had no right to carry. All to protect her little sister from the truth. She will wake up, he said quietly. I give you my word. Grace looked at him. Something flickered in her eyes. Not trust, not yet, but maybe the first crack in the wall. Your word, she repeated, testing the weight of it. My word. Ruth woke an hour later. Her cry was weak, thin, the cry of a baby too sick to scream. Grace tried to soothe her, but Ruth wanted something Grace couldn't give.
She's hungry, Grace said. Mama ain't had no milk for 2 days. She'd been giving us her food. Said she weren't hungry. Of course she had. That's what mothers did. They starved so their children could live. Caleb went to the kitchen. He had some goat's milk from the Finch farm, traded for last month. He warmed it carefully, found a clean cloth, dipped it in the milk. Here, he held it out to Grace. Let her suck on this. Slow. Don't let her choke. Grace took the cloth. Her hands were shaking. She pressed it to Ruth's lips. Ruth latched on, sucked weakly, then stronger. Her tiny hands wrapped around Grace's finger. She's eating. Grace's voice cracked. She's really eating. She's a fighter, like her sister. Grace looked up at him. For the first time, something other than suspicion crossed her face.
You really ain't gonna hurt us? No, Grace, I really ain't.
The other men hurt us. My daddy hurt us. Uncle Marcus hurt us. The wagon master left us to die. Her voice was flat, matter of fact, like she was reciting the weather. Why are you different? Caleb didn't have an answer, not one that would make sense to a 6-year-old who'd seen too much of the world's cruelty. I don't know, he said honestly. I just know that hurting children ain't something I could ever do. And helping folks who need it, that's just what decent people do. Grace considered this. Mama says decent people are rare. Your mama's right, but we exist. Some of us, anyway. Near dawn, the woman stirred. Her eyes fluttered open. Dark, confused. Then terror flooded her face. My girls! She tried to sit up, couldn't. Where are my girls? Mama! Grace scrambled to her side, Lily right behind her. Ruth squirmed in Grace's arms. Mama, we're here! We're safe! Grace. The woman's hand found her daughter's face, touched it like she couldn't believe it was real. Lily. Ruth. Oh, God. Ruth. She's okay, Mama. The man gave her milk. She ate. She's okay. The woman's gaze snapped to Caleb. Her body went rigid. Who are you? Her voice was raw, cracked. What do you want? My name's Caleb Weston, ma'am. This is my ranch. I found you in my barn, near frozen to death. Just trying to get you warm. I don't. She looked around. The cabin, the fire, the blankets wrapped around her children. I don't understand. You don't need to understand right now. You just need to rest. I can't rest. She tried to stand again, collapsed back onto the rug.
I have to go. We have to keep moving. Please, if someone's following us, if he finds us here. Who's following you? The woman pressed her lips together. Her eyes, dark and haunted, gave nothing away. Ain't nobody gonna hurt you here, Caleb said quietly. I give you my word on that. Your word? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. A man's word ain't worth the breath it takes to speak it. Grace tugged her mother's sleeve. Mama, he gave us food. He wrapped us in blankets. He stayed up all night keeping us warm. She paused. He ain't like the others. The woman looked at her daughter, then back at Caleb. Something shifted in her face. Not trust, not yet, but maybe the first crack in the wall she'd built. My name is Hannah, she said finally. Hannah Cole. These are my daughters, Grace, Lily, and Ruth. Pleased to meet you, Mrs. Cole, though I wish the circumstances were better. It's just Hannah. My husband is dead. I'm sorry for your loss. Hannah's jaw tightened. Don't be. He wasn't worth mourning. Caleb filed that away, said nothing. Ruth began the cough, deep, rattling coughs that shook her tiny body. Hannah pulled her close, rubbed her back, murmured soft words. She needs a doctor, Caleb said.
There ain't no doctor. There ain't no help. There's just us.
There's a doctor in town, Cold Springs, about 2 hours' ride. Hannah looked up sharply.
You'd ride 2 hours in this weather? For a stranger's child?
Caleb met her eyes. I would. Something passed between them. Hannah's expression flickered.
Why?
She whispered.
Why would you do that?
Because I couldn't save my own daughter, Caleb thought. Because she died in my arms while I begged God for a miracle that never came. Because maybe this is my chance to get it right. But he didn't say any of that. Because it needs doing, he said simply. Hannah stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once.
If you can get a doctor,
I'd be grateful. Stay by the fire. Keep her warm. I'll be back soon as I can. Caleb pulled on his spare coat, grabbed his hat. At the door, he paused. Grace. The girl looked up. You take care of your mama and sisters while I'm gone. Can you do that? Grace's chin lifted. I always do. Something in Caleb's chest cracked. I know you do, he said quietly. But now you got help. You ain't alone no more. He stepped out into the frozen dark. The wind hit him like a wall. But Caleb didn't hesitate. He saddled his horse, mounted up, and rode for Cold Springs. Behind him, the cabin glowed warm against the endless white. 4 lives inside. 4 strangers who'd stumbled into his world on the last night of the year. 4 people who might just save him from drowning in his own silence. The ride to Cold Springs was brutal. Wind cut through Caleb's clothes, numbed his face, made his horse fight every step. But he pushed on, mile after frozen mile, until the lights of town appeared through the swirling snow. Doc Thornton's house sat at the edge of Main Street. Caleb pounded on the door until it swung open. What in God's name? The old doctor squinted through spectacles. Caleb Weston, I ain't seen you in 6 months. What's wrong? Got a sick baby at my place, maybe 10 months old, coughing bad, fever coming on. Her mama and 2 sisters are there too. Found them in my barn tonight, near frozen through. Doc Thornton was already reaching for his coat. A woman and 3 children? Out in this weather? He shook his head. How'd they end up in your barn? Don't know the full story yet, but the baby needs help. Now. Let me get my bag. 5 minutes later, they were riding back through the storm. Doc Thornton, for all his 60 years, kept pace without complaint. He'd been a field surgeon in the war. A little snow wasn't going to stop him. They reached the cabin as the first gray light of dawn touched the horizon. New Year's Day, 1888. Caleb pushed through the door, stamped snow from his boots. Hannah, I brought the doctor. Hannah stood by the fire, Ruth in her arms. Grace sat nearby, Lily curled against her side. When Grace saw Doc Thornton, her face went wary. It's all right, Grace, Caleb said. He's here to help. That's what they always say, Grace muttered. Doc Thornton approached slowly, keeping his hands visible. Well now, young lady, you're absolutely right to be cautious. Tell you what, you can stay right there and watch everything I do. Make sure I don't do nothing I shouldn't. Deal? Grace considered this. Deal. The doctor turned to Hannah. Ma'am, may I examine your daughter? Hannah hesitated, then nodded. She laid Ruth on the rug, kept one hand on the baby's chest. Ruth whimpered, reached for her mother. Shh, baby. The doctor's just going to look at you. Mama's right here. Doc Thornton worked quickly, gently. He listened to Ruth's chest, checked her temperature, examined her throat. His face grew serious. How long has she been coughing? 5 days. Hannah's voice shook. Maybe 6. Started just before we left the trading post. And you've been traveling in this weather the whole time?
We didn't have a choice.
Doc Thornton exchanged a look with Caleb. Then he reached into his bag. It's influenza. Bad case. Complicated by the cold exposure. He pulled out several bottles. But we caught it in time. She's got good lungs under all that congestion.
Will she...
Hannah's voice broke.
Will she be all right?
If she stays warm, gets rest, and takes the medicine, yes. She's a fighter, this one. He handed Hannah a small bottle. This is for the fever. Half a spoon every 4 hours. And this, he held up a packet of herbs, you brew into tea. Helps with the cough. A few drops in her milk. Hannah clutched the medicine like it was gold.
Thank you. I don't know how I can ever...
No payment necessary, ma'am. Doc Thornton smiled. Caleb's already settled the account. Hannah's head snapped toward Caleb.
You paid?
It was nothing.
It wasn't nothing. Medicine, house calls, your time, it all costs money. Money I don't have.
Ain't asking you to pay it back.
I don't take charity.
Good thing this ain't charity, then. Caleb met her gaze. This is a man helping a woman who needs it. Nothing more, nothing less. Hannah stared at him, frustration and gratitude warring on her face.
Why? She whispered. Why do you keep doing this?
Because you remind me of her, Caleb thought. Because your daughters look at you the way Emma would have looked at Sarah. Because I've been dead inside for 8 years, and watching you fight for your children makes me want to live again. But he didn't say any of that. Because it's New Year's Day, he said instead, and it seemed like the right thing to do. Hannah's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back, looked away.
The baby can't travel,
Doc Thornton said, breaking the moment. Not for at least 2 weeks, maybe longer. She needs rest, warmth, medicine. 2 weeks, maybe longer. 2 weeks stuck in a stranger's cabin. No money, no resources, nothing but the charity of a man she didn't know. She can stay here, Caleb said. All 4 of you, long as you need. Hannah's head snapped up.
We can't impose.
It ain't an imposition.
You don't know us. You don't owe us anything.
I know you're a mother who near killed herself keeping her children alive. I know your baby is sick and needs rest. Caleb shrugged. That's enough. Hannah looked at him, really looked, like she was trying to find the lie hidden beneath his words. She didn't find one.
Thank you,
she whispered finally.
Thank you, Caleb Weston.
Grace watched the whole exchange in silence. Then she crossed to Caleb, stopped a foot away, and looked up at him with those sharp, knowing eyes.
You keep your word,
she said. It wasn't a question. I try.
You came back. You brought the doctor. You kept Ruth warm.
Grace paused.
Maybe you really ain't like the others.
Maybe I ain't. Grace nodded slowly. Then she did something that surprised them both. She reached out and touched his hand. Just briefly, just for a second, before pulling back.
Thank you,
she said quietly,
for not letting my sister die.
Caleb's throat tightened. You're welcome, Grace. Outside, the sun rose higher. New Year's Day had begun, and in a cabin on the edge of nowhere, 4 wounded souls had been thrown together by chance, by fate, by the simple accident of a barn door left ajar. Caleb didn't know what came next. Didn't know if Hannah would stay or flee. Didn't know if he could open his heart again after keeping it locked away for so long. But as he watched Grace curl up beside her mother, as he heard Ruth's breathing steady in the warmth of the fire, as Lily's small hand reached out and grabbed his finger like he was something safe to hold on to. He felt something he hadn't felt in 8 years. Hope. Fragile, terrifying, but there. 3 days passed. Ruth's fever broke on the second morning, and by the third, she was sitting up in Hannah's arms, demanding milk with the stubborn insistence of a baby who'd been denied too long. Hannah wept with relief, though she tried to hide it, turned her face away, pressed her hand to her mouth. Grace just held Lily's hand and whispered, "I told you she'd be okay. I told you." Caleb kept his distance. He cooked meals, tended the fire, checked on the stock. He gave Hannah and her daughters space to heal, to breathe, to exist without a man hovering over them. He'd seen the way Hannah flinched when he moved too fast, the way Grace positioned herself between him and her mother whenever he entered the room. They'd been hurt before. He wasn't going to add to that. On the fourth morning, Hannah appeared at the kitchen stove while Caleb was making coffee. "Let me," she said quietly. Caleb stepped back without argument. Hannah moved into the space he'd vacated, her hands already reaching for the pan. "You don't have to earn your keep," Caleb said. "You're guests." "We ain't guests, we're charity." Hannah cracked eggs into the pan. "And I don't take charity without giving something back. It ain't in my nature." "Fair enough. But if you're cooking, you're eating too. Properly. Not giving your portion to the girls." Hannah's hand stilled on the spatula. "Grace told you." "She's worried about you. Says you've been giving them your food since you left the trading post. They needed it more than I did." "You near died in my barn, Hannah. You need food as much as they do." Hannah was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded once. "All right." They ate together that morning, the 5 of them around Caleb's rough wooden table. Ruth sat in Hannah's lap, still too weak to sit alone, but strong enough to demand bites of egg. Lily ate carefully, watching everything with wide, curious eyes. Grace watched Caleb over every mouthful. "This is good," Lily said finally. Her voice was small, hesitant, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to speak. "Thank you, Lily," Caleb said. "Better than Mama's." "Lily May Cole." Hannah's tone carried warning. "What? It's true?" Caleb bit back a smile. "Your mama's been too tired to cook proper. Give her a few days. She'll put me to shame." Lily considered this. Then she smiled. A real smile. The first one he'd seen from her. "I like it here," she said. "It's warm." Hannah's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back, said nothing. After breakfast, Caleb went to check the horses. When he returned, Hannah was washing dishes in the basin, her back to him, her shoulders tense. "There's something I need to tell you," she said without turning around. "About why we're here. Why someone might be looking for us." Caleb hung his coat by the door, waited. "My husband, William." Hannah's voice was flat, controlled. "He wasn't a good man. I thought he was when I married him. He was charming at first, sweet. But after Grace was born, something changed. He started drinking, started gambling, started losing. And when he lost, he needed someone to blame." Her hands stilled in the water. "He hit me the first time when Grace was 2. I told myself it was an accident, that he didn't mean it. That's what women tell themselves, ain't it? That if we just try harder, if we just love them more, it'll stop." She laughed bitterly. "It never stops." "Hannah, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." "You took us in. You deserve to know what you took in." She turned to face him, her eyes dry but haunted. "William died 18 months ago. Horse threw him while he was drunk. Broke his neck." She paused. "I was supposed to mourn him. Instead, I felt relief. What kind of woman feels relief when her husband dies? The kind who's been hurt too long, Caleb said quietly. Hannah's breath caught. She looked at him like she'd never seen him before. After he died, she continued, I found out about the debts. William owed money to everyone in town, money we didn't have. The creditors took everything, the house, the furniture, my mother's wedding ring. Her jaw tightened. We had nothing left. So you headed west. I had a cousin in Oregon. She wrote me last year, said there was room for us if we could get there. So I joined a wagon train in Missouri, used the last of our money for passage. Hannah's voice cracked. We made it to Wyoming before Ruth got sick. The wagon master said we were slowing them down, said they couldn't wait for a sick baby. He left you at the trading post. Said someone else would come through, someone who could take us the rest of the way. Hannah's hands clenched. No one came. We waited 2 weeks. When I couldn't pay for our room anymore, the owner said we had to leave. So we walked. In the middle of winter, with a sick baby. I didn't have a choice, Caleb. I didn't have anywhere else to go. Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he crossed to the stove, poured 2 cups of coffee, handed one to Hannah. You said someone might be looking for you. Hannah wrapped her hands around the cup, let the warmth seep into her fingers. William had a brother, Marcus. He's convinced William hid money somewhere before he died. Money that rightfully belongs to him. She paused. He came to the house after the funeral, tore through everything looking for it. When he didn't find anything, She stopped, swallowed hard. He hurt you. He hurt Grace. Caleb's blood went cold. Grabbed her arm hard enough to leave bruises. Said if I didn't tell him where the money was, he'd do worse. Hannah's eyes met his. There is no money. William drank and gambled every penny we ever had. But Marcus don't believe that. He thinks I'm hiding it. Is he the one following you? I don't know. I thought I saw him in Laramie before we joined the wagon train, but I can't be sure. Maybe I'm just jumping at shadows. She set down the cup. Her hands were shaking. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought this trouble to your door. As soon as Ruth's strong enough, we'll leave. And go where? Hannah didn't answer. Because there was no answer. She had no money, no wagon, no provisions. The passes were snowed shut until spring. She had nowhere to go and no way to get there. You'll stay here, Caleb said. Through winter at least, until the pass is open. I can't ask that of you. You ain't asking. I'm offering. Caleb met her eyes. No strings, Hannah. No expectations. Just a warm place to rest until you figure out what comes next. Hannah stared at him for a long moment. Her eyes searched his face, looking for the trap, the hidden motive. She'd spent years learning to read men's faces, to anticipate the blow before it came. She found nothing but quiet sincerity. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? Caleb looked away, toward the window where snow was falling again. Because somebody should have done it for you a long time ago, and nobody did. Hannah pressed her hand to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and this time she didn't try to hide them. The days took on a rhythm after that. Hannah insisted on cooking and cleaning, working with a fierce determination that Caleb recognized. She needed to contribute, needed to feel useful, so he let her. Grace remained wary, but she was watching, always watching. Caleb felt her eyes on him when he fed the horses, when he chopped wood, when he sat by the fire in the evening reading one of his few books. She was studying him, testing him, waiting to see if he'd prove himself a monster like the other men she'd known. Caleb didn't try to win her over. He just did what he always did. worked hard, spoke little, treated everyone in his house with respect. If that wasn't enough for Grace, nothing would be. Lily, on the other hand, had no such reservations. By the end of the first week, she was following Caleb around the cabin like a small, curious shadow. "What you doing?" she asked, tugging at his sleeve while he repaired a broken chair. "Fixing this leg. See how it wobbles? I'm making it steady again." "Can I help?" Caleb looked at her small hands, then at the hammer. "You can hold the nails for me, but don't put them in your mouth." "I'm not a baby," Lily said indignantly. "Babies put things in their mouths. I'm 3.
"Almost 3,
Grace corrected from across the room. "Close enough," Caleb hid a smile. "You're right. My mistake." Lily beamed at him. Then her face grew serious. "Mr. Caleb, do you got any little girls?" The question hit like a fist. Caleb's hand stilled on the wood. "I did," he said quietly. "Once." "Where'd she go?" "Lily," Hannah's voice was sharp. "It's all right." Caleb forced his hands to move, to keep working. "She went to heaven, Lily, a long time ago." "Oh." Lily considered this with the matter-of-fact acceptance of very young children. "Was she nice?" "She was the nicest person I ever knew." "What was her name?" "Emma." "That's pretty." Lily patted his arm. "I bet she was pretty, too." Caleb's throat tightened. "She was. She looked like her mama." "What happened to her mama?" "Lily," Hannah's voice was gentle but firm, "that's enough questions." "But I want to know." "Some things are too sad to talk about, baby." Lily looked at Caleb. Her eyes, so young and innocent, held something like understanding. "I'm sorry your little girl went to heaven," she said. "And her mama, too." Caleb couldn't speak, could only nod. Lily reached up and patted his cheek, the way a child comforts a wounded animal. "It's okay to be sad," she said. "Mama cries sometimes when she thinks we're sleeping. Grace says it's because she misses feeling safe. Maybe you miss feeling safe too." Hannah made a small sound. Caleb looked up. Her eyes were wet. "Lily, sweetheart, why don't you go check on Ruth?" Hannah said. Lily nodded and scampered off. "I'm sorry," Hannah said quietly. "She doesn't understand." "She understands more than you think." Caleb set down the hammer. "They both do." "What happened to them? Your wife and daughter?" Hannah paused. "You don't have to tell me. I know I got no right to ask." "You told me your story. Fair's fair." Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Her name was Sarah. We built this place together. Claimed the land, raised the walls, planted the garden." He paused. "She got pregnant the second year we were married. We were so happy. Built the nursery, sewed the clothes, picked out names. Everything was perfect." Hannah waited, not speaking. "She went into labor early, middle of winter, just like now. I rode for the doctor, but there was a storm. By the time I got back..." His voice broke. "By the time I got back, it was over. Sarah was gone. Emma lived for 2 days, just long enough for me to hold her, to see her eyes open." He swallowed hard. "And close again." "Caleb." "I buried them together under the cottonwood tree out back." He finally looked at her. His eyes were dry, but the pain in them was bottomless. "That was 8 years ago. I ain't let anyone in since. Ain't wanted to. Because caring means losing, and I couldn't survive losing again." Hannah stepped closer. Her hand found his in the dim light. "I understand," she said quietly. "I do." Her grip tightened. But Caleb, you didn't lose them because you loved them. You lost them because life is cruel and unfair. Closing yourself off don't protect you from pain. It just means you suffer alone. Speaking from experience? Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper. I spent years being afraid. Afraid to leave William. Afraid to stay. Afraid of my own shadow. But fear don't keep you safe. It just keeps you small. They stood there in the dim light, two wounded people holding on to each other. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. The next morning, Caleb found Grace standing in front of the closed door at the end of the hall, the nursery door, the one he'd kept shut for 8 years. "What's in there?" Grace asked without turning around. Caleb's heart clenched. "Nothing important." "Mama said you had a little girl. Is this her room?" "Grace, I ain't gonna touch nothing." Grace turned to face him. Her eyes, so guarded usually, held something like compassion. "I just wanted to know." Caleb stood there, frozen. He could feel the weight of the closed door, the memories locked behind it. Sarah's rocking chair, Emma's cradle, the tiny clothes they'd never gotten to use. "Yes," he said finally. "It was her room. It was supposed to be her room." Grace nodded slowly. "My daddy had a room like that. A room where he kept all his bottles. Mama never let us go in there. She said some rooms hold too much pain to open." "Your mama's a wise woman." "Are you ever going to open it?" The question hung in the air. Caleb looked at the door, at the brass handle he hadn't touched in 8 years. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe someday." Grace studied him for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised them both. She reached out and touched his hand, just briefly, before pulling back. "When you do," she said quietly, "maybe it won't hurt so much if somebody's there with you." She walked away, leaving Caleb standing alone in the hallway. His hand tingled where she'd touched it. Such a small gesture, such a massive gift of trust from a child who trusted no one. He looked at the nursery door. For the first time in 8 years, he thought about opening it. Not today. Not yet. But the thought was there, and that was something. 2 weeks in, Doc Thornton returned to check on Ruth. He pronounced her fully recovered, marveling at how quickly she'd bounce back. "Children are resilient," Doc Thornton said, packing up his bag. "More resilient than we give them credit for." "Thank you, Doctor." Hannah's voice was thick. "I don't know how I can ever repay you." "No payment necessary, ma'am. Caleb's already settled the account." Hannah's head snapped toward Caleb. "You paid again." "It was nothing." "It wasn't nothing." Hannah stepped closer. "Medicine, house calls, your time, it all cost money. Money I can't pay back." "Ain't asking you to pay it back." "I don't take charity." "And I told you, this ain't charity." Caleb met her gaze steadily. "This is a man helping folks who need it. Nothing more." "But why?" Hannah's voice cracked. "Why do you keep helping us?" Doc Thornton cleared his throat. "I'll just be going," he said. "Take care of that little one. And Hannah?" She looked at him. "Let him help. Some men need to help others as much as others need to be helped." He tipped his hat. "Happy to see this old cabin full of life again." After the doctor left, silence settled over the cabin. Ruth was sleeping. Lily had curled up beside her. Grace sat by the fire, pretending to read but watching them over the top of the book. Hannah stood at the window, looking out at the endless white. "She's getting better," Caleb said. "All 3 of them are." "I know." Hannah's voice was barely a whisper.
and soon there won't be no reason for us to stay." Caleb's chest tightened. "There's every reason for you to stay." Hannah turned to face him.
"What reason?" "The passes are closed until spring. You got nowhere to go, no money, no provisions. 3 little girls who need stability." Caleb paused. "Seems like plenty of reasons to me." "Those are reasons we need to stay, not reasons you'd want us to." "Who says I don't want you to?" Hannah stared at him. "You don't mean that." "I don't say things I don't mean." Caleb stepped closer. "This cabin's been empty for 8 years, Hannah. Silent. Dead. Then you showed up with your girls and suddenly it's alive again. There's laughter. There's noise. There's—" He stopped, looked away. "There's what?" "There's a reason to get up in the morning." Hannah's breath caught. "Caleb." "I know it's too fast. I know we barely know each other. I ain't asking for nothing. I'm just saying—" He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm just saying you don't have to leave. Not ever. If you don't want to." The words hung in the air between them. Hannah didn't speak. Couldn't speak. Then Grace's voice cut through the silence. "Mama." They both turned. Grace was standing by the window, her face pale. "There's a man outside, on a horse, just watching the cabin." Caleb's blood went cold. He crossed to the window in 3 strides, looked out. A rider sat at the edge of the tree line, too far to make out his face, but something about the way he sat his horse, the way he didn't move, just watched. "Is it him?" Caleb asked quietly. "Is it Marcus?" Hannah moved to the window. Her whole body went rigid. "I can't tell. It's too far." Her voice shook. "But it could be. Oh God, Caleb, it could be." "Get away from the window." Hannah pulled Grace back, grabbed Lily, shook Ruth awake. "Girls, come here. Stay quiet." Caleb grabbed his rifle from above the fireplace, checked the chamber. "Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone but me." "Where are you going?" "To find out who that is and what he wants." "Caleb, no!" Hannah grabbed his arm. "Please." "If it's Marcus, then I need to know, and he needs to know this ain't a house full of helpless women." Caleb met her eyes. "I spent 10 years as a deputy marshal, Hannah. I've faced down worse than some coward who beats on children." Hannah's grip tightened. "Come back to me," she whispered. "Promise me you'll come back." Caleb looked at her, at this woman who'd stumbled into his life and changed everything. "I promise." He stepped out into the cold. The rider was already gone, nothing but hoof prints in the snow leading back toward town. Caleb stood there for a long time, watching, waiting. The wind howled around him. The snow fell thick and fast, but he didn't move. Because somewhere out there, a wolf was circling, and Caleb Weston wasn't about to let him anywhere near his flock. Caleb didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window with his rifle across his knees, watching the darkness for any sign of movement. The fire burned low. The cabin was silent, except for the soft breathing of 4 people who depended on him to keep them safe. Hannah found him there at dawn. "You've been up all night," she said quietly. "Couldn't sleep." "Did you see him again?" "No, but that don't mean he's gone." Hannah wrapped her arms around herself. "Maybe it wasn't Marcus. Maybe it was just a traveler passing through." "Travelers don't sit and watch a cabin for 20 minutes, then ride off when someone comes out to meet them." Hannah's face went pale. "What are we going to do?" "We're going to be careful. You and the girls stay inside. Don't go near the windows. I'll ride into town today, talk to the sheriff." "And if it is Marcus? If he's already there?" Caleb met her eyes. "Then I'll deal with him."
Caleb, you don't know what he's capable of.
I know exactly what he's capable of. Caleb stood. His jaw was tight. A man who hurts children is capable of anything. But so am I. He rode into Cold Springs before the sun cleared the mountains. The town was quiet. Too quiet for a Saturday morning. Caleb dismounted in front of the sheriff's office and pushed through the door. Sheriff Tom Daniels looked up from his desk. He was a big man, running to fat now, but Caleb remembered when he'd been one of the best lawmen in the territory. "Caleb Weston," Daniels leaned back in his chair. "Ain't seen you in months. What brings you to town?" "Got a problem. Might be nothing. Might be something." "Spit it out." "I got a woman and 3 children staying at my place. Found them near frozen in my barn on New Year's Eve. They're running from someone. A man named Marcus Cole." Daniel's expression didn't change. "And I saw a rider watching my cabin yesterday. Didn't approach, just watched. Then rode off when I came out." "Could be anyone." "Could be. But this Marcus Cole, he's dangerous. Beat on the woman's husband's brother. Hurt her oldest girl." "She's scared of him, Tom. Real scared." Daniels was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. "Caleb, I got no jurisdiction over what happened in Missouri, or wherever this woman came from. Unless this Marcus Cole breaks the law in my town, there ain't nothing I can do." "I ain't asking you to arrest him. I'm asking you to keep your eyes open." "For what?" "For a man asking questions about a woman with 3 little girls. For strangers who don't belong." Daniels studied him. "You sweet on this woman, Caleb?" "That ain't got nothing to do with it." "It's got everything to do with it." Daniels leaned forward. "I knew Sarah. Knew what losing her did to you. 8 years you've been holed up on that ranch, not talking to nobody, not letting nobody in. Now suddenly, you got a woman and 3 kids living with you, and you're in here asking me to watch out for trouble?" Caleb's jaw tightened. "Something changed," Daniels said. "Something big. Will you help or not?" The sheriff was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I'll keep my eyes open. But Caleb," he held up a hand, "if trouble comes, you let me handle it. Don't go playing hero. Those days are behind you." "Are they?" Caleb turned and walked out. He was halfway to his horse when a voice stopped him. "Well, well, Caleb Weston." Caleb turned. A man stood on the boardwalk across the street. Tall, lean, dark hair slicked back. Expensive clothes that didn't belong in a Wyoming mining town. "Do I know you?" Caleb asked. "No, but I know you." The man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Name's Marcus Cole. I believe you've been taking care of my sister-in-law." Caleb's hand. I'll start from where part 2 left off. Caleb watching for the mysterious rider. Caleb didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window with his rifle across his knees, watching the darkness for any sign of movement. The fire burned low. The cabin was silent, except for the soft breathing of 4 people who depended on him. Hannah found him there at dawn. "You've been up all night," she said quietly. "Couldn't sleep." "Did you see him again?" "No, but that don't mean he ain't out there." Hannah wrapped her arms around herself. "Maybe it wasn't Marcus. Maybe it was just a traveler." "Travelers don't sit and watch a cabin for 20 minutes, then ride off when someone comes out." Hannah's face went pale. "What are we going to do?" "We're going to be careful. You and the girls stay inside. I'll ride into town today. Talk to the sheriff." "And if it is Marcus? If he's already there?" Caleb met her eyes. "Then I'll deal with him." "Caleb, you don't know what he's capable of." "I know exactly what he's capable of." Caleb stood, his jaw tight. "A man who hurts children is capable of anything. But so am I." He rode into Cold Springs before the sun cleared the mountains. The town was quiet. Too quiet for a Saturday morning. Caleb dismounted in front of the sheriff's office and pushed through the door. Sheriff Tom Daniels looked up from his desk. He was a big man, running to fat now, but Caleb remembered when he'd been one of the best lawmen in the territory. "Caleb Weston," Daniels leaned back. "Ain't seen you in months. What brings you to town?" "Got a problem. Might be nothing. Might be something." "Spit it out." "I got a woman and 3 children staying at my place. Found them near frozen in my barn on New Year's Eve. They're running from someone. A man named Marcus Cole." Daniel's expression didn't change. And I saw a rider watching my cabin yesterday. Didn't approach, just watched. Then rode off when I came out. Could be anyone. Could be. But this Marcus Cole, he's dangerous, Tom. Beat on the woman. Hurt her oldest girl. Left bruises on a 6-year-old. Something flickered in Daniel's eyes. She's scared of him. Caleb continued. Real scared. And I ain't about to let him anywhere near her or those children. Daniels was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. "Caleb, I got no jurisdiction over what happened in Missouri. Unless this Marcus Cole breaks the law in my town, there ain't nothing I can do. I ain't asking you to arrest him. I'm asking you to keep your eyes open." "For what?" "For a stranger asking questions about a woman with 3 little girls. For someone who don't belong." Daniel studied him. "You sweet on this woman?" "That ain't got nothing to do with it." "It's got everything to do with it." Daniels leaned forward. "I knew Sarah. Knew what losing her did to you. 8 years you've been holed up on that ranch, not talking to nobody, not letting nobody in. Now, suddenly you got a woman and 3 kids living with you?" Caleb's jaw tightened. "Something changed," Daniel said. "Something big. Will you help or not?" The sheriff was quiet. Then he nodded. "I'll keep my eyes open, but Caleb, if trouble comes, you let me handle it. Don't go playing hero." "I stopped being a hero 8 years ago." Caleb turned and walked out. He was halfway to his horse when a voice stopped him cold. "Well, well, Caleb Weston." Caleb turned. A man stood on the boardwalk across the street. Tall, lean, dark hair slicked back, clothes too expensive for a Wyoming mining town. "Do I know you?" Caleb asked. "No," the man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "But I know you. Name's Marcus Cole. I believe you've been taking care of my sister-in-law." Caleb's hand moved toward his pistol. "Easy now," Marcus held up his hands. "I ain't here for trouble. Just want to talk." "Then talk." Marcus stepped off the boardwalk, crossed the street slow, deliberate, like a man who had all the time in the world. "Hannah and me, we got some unfinished business. Family business. My brother William, God rest his soul, left some things behind when he died. Things that belong to me." "She says there ain't nothing." "She's lying." Marcus's smile faded. "She's been lying since the day William died. But I'm a patient man. I've tracked her across 3 states. I ain't about to give up now." "You tracked a woman and 3 children across 3 states in the dead of winter?" Caleb's voice was flat. "For what? Money?" "For what's rightfully mine." "There ain't no money, Cole. Your brother drank it all. Gambled the rest. Hannah's got nothing but the clothes on her back and 3 little girls who need feeding." "That's what she wants you to think." Marcus stepped closer. "She's good at making men believe her. William believed her, right up until the day she killed him." Caleb went still. "Oh, she didn't tell you that part?" Marcus laughed. "My brother didn't fall off no horse. She pushed him. pushed him down the stairs, and broke his neck. Then she took the money and ran. You're a liar. Am I? Marcus tilted his head. Ask her what really happened the night William died. Ask her why she ran instead of staying for the funeral. Ask her why she's so scared of me. Caleb's mind was racing. Hannah's voice echoed in his head. He wasn't a good man. Horse threw him while he was drunk. I can see you're thinking about it, Marcus said softly. Good. Think hard. Because that woman you're protecting, she's a murderer. And those sweet little girls, they're going to grow up just like her. Get out of my town. It ain't your town, Weston. And Hannah ain't yours neither. Not yet. Marcus smiled again. But I'm a reasonable man. You hand her over, her and whatever she stole, and I'll be on my way. No trouble for you, no trouble for anyone. And if I don't? Marcus's eyes went cold. Then I'll take what's mine. And anyone who gets in my way. He paused. Well, let's just say I got friends who don't mind getting their hands dirty. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Marcus tipped his hat. Think about it, Weston. I'll be at the hotel when you're ready to talk. He turned and walked away. Caleb stood frozen in the street, his heart pounding, his mind spinning. She pushed him down the stairs and broke his neck. It couldn't be true. Hannah wasn't a killer. He'd seen her with her daughters, seen the love in her eyes, the fierce protectiveness. But he'd also seen the fear, the way she flinched at sudden movements, the way she watched doorways like she expected someone to come through them. The fear of a woman running from justice? Or the fear of a woman running from a monster? He had to know. The ride back to the ranch felt endless. Every hoofbeat echoed Marcus's words. She's a murderer. She killed him. Caleb didn't want to believe it. Everything in him screamed that Hannah was telling the truth, that Marcus was the villain here, that William Cole had been exactly what Hannah said, a drunk, a gambler, an abuser. But doubt was a poison, and Marcus had planted it deep. Hannah was waiting on the porch when he rode up. You were gone so long, she called. I was worried. Caleb dismounted, didn't meet her eyes. What happened? Hannah's voice sharpened. Caleb, what's wrong? We need to talk. He pushed past her into the cabin. Grace looked up from where she was playing with Lily. Ruth was sleeping in the cradle by the fire. Girls, go to the bedroom, Hannah said. But Mama! Now, Grace. Grace gathered Lily and disappeared down the hall. Hannah closed the door behind them. Tell me, she said. Caleb turned to face her. I met Marcus Cole in town. Hannah's face went white. She grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. He's here. He's been here. Watching. Waiting. Caleb paused. He told me something, Hannah. Something about William. What did he tell you? He said William didn't fall off a horse. He said you pushed him. Down the stairs. Broke his neck. Hannah didn't move, didn't breathe. He said you killed your husband and stole his money and ran. Caleb's voice cracked. Tell me it ain't true, Hannah. Tell me he's lying. Silence. Long. Heavy. Terrible. Hannah. I didn't push him. Her voice was barely a whisper. But I didn't save him either. Caleb felt the ground shift beneath his feet. What does that mean? Hannah's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table. William came home drunk that night. Drunker than usual. He started in on me about dinner being cold, about the house being dirty, about how I was a worthless wife and he never should have married me. She swallowed hard. Grace tried to stop him, stepped between us, Told him to leave me alone. Hannah's voice broke. He hit her. Hit my baby girl so hard she flew across the room. Jesus. I lost my mind. I screamed at him. Told him if he ever touched her again, I'd kill him. Hannah looked up. Her eyes were wet. He laughed. Said I didn't have the guts. Then he went for the stairs. He was going to get his belt. He always got his belt when he wanted to teach us a lesson. Caleb couldn't speak. He was halfway up when he stumbled. He was so drunk he couldn't keep his feet. He grabbed the railing, but it broke. It had been broken for months, and I kept asking him to fix it. And he fell. Hannah closed her eyes. I watched him fall, watched him hit the bottom, heard his neck snap. She opened her eyes, and I didn't move, didn't scream, didn't call for help. I just stood there and watched him die. That ain't murder, Hannah. Ain't it? She laughed bitterly. I could have grabbed him, could have tried to catch him, could have done something, but I didn't. I let him fall. I let him die. Because I wanted him dead, Caleb. I'd wanted him dead for years. He beat you. He beat your daughter. Any woman would have left. Hannah cut him off. Any woman with sense would have taken her children and run years ago. But I stayed. I stayed because I was scared. Because I had nowhere to go. Because I thought maybe if I just tried harder, loved him better, he'd change. Her voice dropped. So no, I didn't push William Cole. But I killed him just the same. I killed him with my silence, my inaction, my relief when he finally stopped breathing. Caleb stood there, processing, trying to reconcile the woman in front of him with the monster Marcus had described. There was no monster, just a broken woman who'd survived the only way she knew how. The money, he said finally. The money Marcus thinks you stole. There ain't no money. William gambled it all months before he died. We were about to lose the house. That's why he was so angry all the time. That's why he drank so much. Hannah shook her head. Marcus don't believe me. He's convinced William had a fortune hidden somewhere. But there's nothing, Caleb. Nothing but debts and bad memories. Why did you run? Because I knew. Hannah's voice hardened. I knew that if anyone found out what really happened, if anyone knew I just stood there and watched him die, they'd call it murder. They'd take my girls away. They'd hang me. So you ran. I ran, and I kept running, and I thought maybe... She stopped, pressed her hand to her mouth. Maybe what? Maybe I'd finally found somewhere safe. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Maybe I'd finally found someone who wouldn't hurt us. Caleb crossed the room in 3 strides. He pulled her into his arms and held her tight. You did find somewhere safe, he said fiercely. You found me, and I ain't gonna let Marcus Cole or anyone else touch you or those girls. You hear me? You still want us? After everything I told you? I want you more. Caleb pulled back, cupped her face in his hands. Hannah, you didn't kill your husband. You survived him. There's a difference. The law won't see it that way. The law ain't gonna find out, because Marcus Cole ain't gonna talk to anyone. Not if I have anything to say about it. Caleb, he's dangerous. So am I. Caleb's eyes were hard. I spent 10 years tracking men like Marcus Cole. Men who hurt women and children. Men who thought they could do whatever they wanted because nobody was strong enough to stop them. He paused. I stopped them. Every single one. And I'll stop him, too. Hannah searched his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. She found none. I love you, she whispered. I know I shouldn't say it. I know it's too soon. But I love you, Caleb Weston. And I'm scared of losing you. You ain't gonna lose me. You don't know that. I know I ain't gonna stop fighting for you. For Grace. For Lily. For Ruth. Caleb's voice was rough. I know that whatever happens, I'm gonna stand between you and anyone who tries to hurt you. And I know. He stopped. What? I know I love you too. The words hung in the air, heavy, true. Hannah kissed him, fierce and desperate, pouring everything she felt into it. The fear, the hope, the love she thought she'd never feel again. When they finally broke apart, both of them were trembling. What do we do now? Hannah asked. Now we wait. Marcus is going to make a move. When he does, I'll be ready. And if he doesn't? If he just keeps watching, keeps waiting? Then I'll go to him. Caleb's jaw tightened. But one way or another, this ends. Soon. The next 3 days passed in tense silence. Caleb rode the property twice a day, checking for tracks, signs of watchers. He found nothing, but he knew Marcus was out there, waiting, planning. Grace sensed the tension. She stopped asking to go outside, stopped asking for riding lessons. Instead, she stayed close to her mother, watching, guarding, a 6-year-old soldier standing post. On the 4th morning, Caleb found her sitting by the window, staring out at the snow. You should be sleeping, he said. Can't sleep. Bad dreams. Caleb sat down beside her. What kind of bad dreams? Dreams about Uncle Marcus. Grace's voice was flat. Dreams about him finding us, hurting Mama, hurting Lily and Ruth. That ain't gonna happen. You don't know that. Grace looked at him, her eyes too old for her face. You can't promise nothing bad will happen. Nobody can promise that. Caleb was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You're right. I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen. But I can promise I'll do everything in my power to protect you. And I can promise I ain't gonna run. I ain't gonna leave. No matter what. My daddy made promises too. He promised he'd stop drinking. Promised he'd stop hitting Mama. Promised things would get better. Grace's voice cracked. He broke every single one. I ain't your daddy, Grace. I know, but... She stopped, looked away. But what? But what if you're just like him? What if you're nice now, but you change later? What if you start hurting us, too? Caleb's heart cracked. Come here. He opened his arms. Grace hesitated, then slowly, carefully, she climbed into his lap. He held her close, felt her small body trembling against his. I ain't gonna hurt you, Grace. Not ever. I know you don't believe me yet. I know trust takes time. But I'm gonna prove it to you. Every single day. I'm gonna show you that some men keep their promises. Some men protect instead of harm. And I'm gonna keep showing you until you believe it. Grace was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, What if Uncle Marcus kills you? He won't. But what if he does? Caleb pulled back, looked into her eyes. Then you run. You take your mama and your sisters and you run as far and as fast as you can. You don't look back. You don't stop. You just run. I don't want to run anymore. Tears spilled down Grace's cheeks. I'm tired of running. I want to stay here, with you. Then I reckon I better not let Marcus Cole kill me. Caleb wiped her tears with his thumb. Deal? Grace managed a small smile. Deal. The attack came at dawn on the 5th day. Caleb was in the barn when he heard Hannah scream. He grabbed his rifle and ran, his heart pounding, his boots slipping on the frozen ground. The cabin door was open, hanging off its hinges. He burst inside. Marcus Cole stood in the middle of the room. one hand wrapped around Hannah's arm, the other holding a pistol to her head. Grace crouched in the corner, shielding Lily and Ruth with her body. Her face was white with terror. "Ah, there you are," Marcus smiled. "I was starting to think you'd run off and left them." "Let her go. Put down the rifle first." Caleb didn't move. "I said, put it down." Marcus pressed the pistol harder against Hannah's temple. She whimpered. "Or I'll paint the walls with her brains." Caleb lowered the rifle. "Set it on the floor. Kick it away." He kicked it. The rifle slid across the room, out of reach. "Good boy," Marcus laughed. "Now we can have a civilized conversation." "What do you want?" "I want what I've always wanted. The money William hid. The money this lying whore has been keeping from me." "There ain't no money. How many times does she have to tell you?" "She can tell me 1,000 times. Don't make it true." Marcus shook Hannah roughly. "William told me himself, right before he died. Said he had $10,000 hidden away. Said it was insurance. Said nobody would ever find it but him." "William was a drunk and a liar." Hannah's voice shook. "He made things up to make himself feel important. There was never any money, Marcus. Never." "Shut up," Marcus backhanded her. Hannah's head snapped to the side. Blood bloomed on her lip. Grace screamed. "Don't touch her!" Caleb stepped forward. Marcus swung the pistol toward him. "Stay back, hero, or I'll put you down right here." Caleb stopped. His hands clenched into fists. "That's better." Marcus dragged Hannah toward the door. "Here's what's going to happen. Hannah and me are going to take a little trip. She's going to show me where the money is. And you're going to stay here with the brats until we get back." "And if she can't show you? Because there ain't nothing to show?" Marcus smiled. Cold. Dead. "Then I'll kill her. And I'll come back for the children. One by one." "Please," Hannah sobbed. "Please, Marcus. I'll do anything. Just don't hurt my girls." "Then tell me where the money is." "I don't know. I swear to God, I don't know." "Wrong answer." Marcus raised the pistol. Caleb moved. He covered the distance in 2 strides, his hand closing around Marcus's wrist just as the gun went off. The bullet punched through the ceiling. Splinters rained down. Hannah screamed and dove for the children. Caleb and Marcus crashed to the floor, fighting for the gun. Rolling, struggling. Marcus was strong, but Caleb was stronger. Years of ranching, years of rage, years of protecting what mattered. He slammed Marcus's hand against the floor. Once, twice. The gun skittered free. Marcus drove his knee into Caleb's stomach. The air exploded from his lungs. Marcus scrambled for the gun. Caleb grabbed his ankle, pulled him back. They grappled, punching, kicking, blood and sweat and fury. Marcus got his hands around Caleb's throat, squeezed. The world started to go dark. Then something crashed against Marcus's head. He grunted, his grip loosened. Caleb looked up. Grace stood over them, clutching the fireplace poker in her small hands. "Don't," she said, her voice shaking. "Don't you touch him." Marcus stared at her, blood streaming from his temple. "You little—" Caleb drove his fist into Marcus's jaw, felt bone crack. Marcus went limp. For a long moment, the only sound was heavy breathing. Then Grace dropped the poker and burst into tears. Caleb pulled her into his arms. "It's over," he said. "It's over, Grace. You did good. You did so good." "I hit him. I hit him hard." "You saved me. You saved all of us." Hannah was there suddenly, Ruth in one arm, Lily clinging to her skirt. She dropped to her knees beside them, wrapped her free arm around Caleb and Grace. "Is he dead?" she whispered. Caleb looked at Marcus. The man was breathing, unconscious but alive. No, but he's going to wish he was when the sheriff gets through with him.
What do we do?
We tie him up, then I ride for town. Caleb pulled back, looked at his family, because that's what they were now, his family. It's over, Hannah. He ain't never gonna hurt you again. Hannah stared at him, tears streaming down her face.
You kept your promise, she whispered. You really kept your promise.
Told you I would. Grace looked up at him, her eyes wide, wondering.
You came back, she said. You didn't run. You didn't leave us.
Never. Caleb pressed his forehead to hers. Not ever, Grace. I'm here, and I ain't going anywhere. Sheriff Daniels arrived within the hour. He took one look at Marcus Cole, bound and bleeding on the cabin floor, and let out a long, slow whistle. Well, looks like trouble found you after all. He broke into my home, Caleb said, held a gun to Hannah's head, threatened to kill her children. Daniels crouched beside Marcus. The man was conscious now, glaring up at them with pure hatred. That true, Cole? She's a murderer, Marcus spat. She killed my brother, stole his money. I was just taking back what's mine. By breaking into a man's home and threatening women and children? Daniels shook his head. That ain't how we do things in Wyoming territory. You don't understand. I understand plenty. Daniels hauled Marcus to his feet. I understand you're going to spend a long time in a cell thinking about your choices. Attempted murder, breaking and entering, assault. That's 10 years, at least. You can't do this. Watch me. Daniels dragged Marcus toward the door. At the threshold, Marcus twisted around. His eyes found Hannah. This ain't over, he snarled. You hear me? This ain't over. Yes, it is. Caleb stepped in front of Hannah, blocking Marcus's view. You come near her again. You come near any of them again, and I won't wait for the sheriff. I'll put you in the ground myself. Marcus's face contorted with rage, but Daniels was already pulling him out the door, shoving him onto a horse, tying his hands to the saddle horn. I'll need statements from both of you, Daniels said. Come into town tomorrow. We'll make it official. We'll be there. Daniels tipped his hat. Then he rode away, Marcus Cole in tow. Caleb watched until they disappeared over the ridge. Then he closed the door, turned around. Hannah stood in the middle of the room, shaking. Ruth clutched against her chest. Lily pressed against her leg. Grace, still holding the fireplace poker like she'd forgotten she had it. It's over, Caleb said. He's gone. Hannah didn't move, didn't speak. Hannah, I can't, her voice broke. I can't stop shaking. Caleb crossed to her, gently took Ruth from her arms, handed the baby to Grace. Take your sisters to the bedroom. Stay there until I come get you. Grace nodded. She set down the poker and gathered Lily's hand, led her sisters down the hall. The moment they were gone, Hannah collapsed. Her knees buckled. She would have hit the floor if Caleb hadn't caught her. He pulled her close, held her tight, felt her whole body convulsing with sobs. I thought he was going to kill you, she gasped. When he had his hands around your throat, I thought, I'm here. I'm right here. I couldn't move. I just stood there, just like before, just like with William. Hannah, look at me. She raised her tear-stained face. You didn't just stand there. You got the children to safety. You stayed calm. You kept them quiet so they wouldn't get hurt. Caleb cupped her face in his hands. You did everything right. Grace hit him. A 6-year-old had to save us because I couldn't. Grace is brave, just like her mother. I ain't brave. I'm a coward. You crossed 3 states in the dead of winter with 3 children and no money. You kept them alive when any other woman would have given up. You survived a man who beat you for years, and you still have enough love in your heart to trust again. Caleb's voice was fierce. That ain't cowardice, Hannah. That's the bravest thing I ever seen. Hannah stared at him, tears still streaming down her cheeks. How? She whispered. How do you see good in me when all I see is broken pieces? Because I know what broken looks like. I've been broken for 8 years, and you... He pressed his forehead to hers. You're not broken, Hannah. You're healing. We both are. She kissed him then, desperate and grateful and full of everything she couldn't put into words. They held each other for a long time. 2 wounded people, finally finding solid ground. The girls came out an hour later. Lily ran straight to Hannah, threw her arms around her waist. Mama, is the bad man gone? He's gone, baby. The sheriff took him away. Is he gonna come back? No. Caleb knelt down to her level. He's never coming back. I promise. Lily studied him with those wide, serious eyes. You keep your promises. Grace said so. I try. Good. Lily nodded solemnly. Because I don't like when bad men come. They make Mama cry. Nobody's going to make your mama cry anymore. Not while I'm here. Lily considered this. Then she reached out and patted his cheek. You're nice, she said. I'm glad we found you. Caleb's throat tightened. I'm glad you found me too. Grace hung back. She hadn't said a word since they'd come out of the bedroom. She stood against the wall, arms wrapped around herself, staring at the bloodstain on the floor where Marcus had lain. Hannah noticed. She crossed to her daughter, knelt down. Grace, talk to me. I hit him. Grace's voice was barely a whisper. I hit him with the poker. You saved Caleb's life. I wanted to kill him. Grace looked up. Her eyes were haunted. I wanted to hit him until he stopped moving, until he couldn't hurt us anymore. What's wrong with me, Mama? Oh, baby. Hannah pulled her into her arms. Nothing's wrong with you. You were protecting your family, that's all. But I wanted him dead. I wanted it so bad. That don't make you bad, Grace. That makes you human. Caleb moved closer. When someone threatens the people you love, you do whatever it takes to stop them. That's not evil. That's survival. Grace looked at him over Hannah's shoulder. Did you want to kill him too? Yes. Caleb didn't hesitate. When I saw him holding that gun to your mother's head, I wanted to tear him apart with my bare hands. But you didn't. No, because killing him wouldn't have solved anything. It would have just made more pain. He paused. But if he'd hurt any of you, if I'd been too late, I would have done it. And I wouldn't have regretted it for a second. Grace was quiet for a long moment, processing. Mama says it's wrong to hurt people, she said finally. It is wrong, most of the time. But sometimes, Caleb chose his words carefully. Sometimes protecting the people you love means doing things you wish you didn't have to do. The important thing is knowing the difference, knowing when to fight and when to walk away. How do you know? You listen to your heart, and you trust the people who love you to help you figure it out. Grace nodded slowly. Then she pulled away from Hannah and walked to Caleb. She stood in front of him, looking up with those old soul eyes. Are you going to be my pa? The question hit like a thunderbolt. Caleb looked at Hannah. She was frozen, waiting. "I don't know," he said honestly. "That's up to your mama. And you." "I want you to be." Grace's chin lifted. "I didn't think I'd ever want a pa again. Not after Daddy. But you're different. You keep your promises. You don't hit. You make Mama smile." "Grace," Hannah's voice cracked. "It's true, Mama. You smile now. You didn't used to smile. Not ever. But when you look at him," Grace pointed at Caleb, "you smile like you used to before Daddy got mean." Hannah pressed her hand to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I want to stay here," Grace continued. "I want this to be our home. I want Caleb to be our pa, and I want Lily and Ruth to grow up somewhere safe, where nobody hits, and nobody yells, and nobody leaves us in the cold to die." She took a shaky breath. "But if you don't want us, that's okay too. We'll go. We'll find somewhere else. We always do." Caleb dropped to his knees, took Grace's hands in his. "I want you," he said fiercely. "All of you, more than I've ever wanted anything in my life." "Really?" "Really." He looked up at Hannah. "If your mama will have me." Hannah let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. "You're asking me to marry you? Now? With blood on the floor, and the sheriff just hauled away the man who tried to kill us?" "I'm asking you to stay. Forever. The rest is just details." "Details," Hannah laughed again, wiping her eyes. "Marriage is just details. Compared to what we've been through? Yeah, it is." Hannah looked at her daughters. Lily was watching with wide, confused eyes. Ruth was sleeping in the cradle, oblivious to the world changing around her. And Grace was holding her breath, hope and fear warring on her small face. "Say yes, Mama," Grace whispered. "Please say yes." Hannah knelt down, pulled Grace and Lily close. "I need to talk to Caleb alone. Can you watch Ruth for a few minutes?" Grace nodded. She took Lily's hand and led her to the cradle. Hannah stood, held out her hand to Caleb. "Walk with me." They stepped out onto the porch. The air was cold. The sun was setting. The world was quiet. "You don't have to do this," Hannah said softly. "You don't have to marry me just because Marcus is gone. We can stay until spring, find somewhere else." "Is that what you want?" Hannah was quiet for a long moment. "No," she admitted. "It's not what I want. But what I want and what's right ain't always the same thing." "What do you think is right?" "I think—" She stopped, started again. "I think you deserve someone who ain't broken. Someone who don't come with 3 children and a dead husband and enough baggage to fill a freight train. Someone who can give you—" "Hannah." Caleb took her hands. "Look at me." She raised her eyes. "I had someone perfect once. Sarah was everything a man could want. Kind, beautiful, full of life. And I lost her. Lost her and our daughter in the same night. For 8 years I've been dead inside, going through the motions, waiting to die." His grip tightened. "Then you showed up, frozen, starving, carrying 3 children on nothing but sheer will. And something woke up in me, something I thought was gone forever." "Caleb." "I don't want perfect, Hannah. I want real. I want messy. I want a woman who's been through hell and came out fighting. I want daughters who've got more courage in their little fingers than most men have in their whole bodies. I want a family. And I want it with you." Hannah's eyes filled with tears. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I'm so scared of being hurt again." "So am I. But I'm more scared of spending another 8 years alone." More scared of watching you walk away than I am of anything that might go wrong if you stay. And if it does go wrong, if I disappoint you, if you wake up one day and realize you made a mistake, then we'll figure it out together. Because that's what marriage is, Hannah. It ain't about being perfect. It's about showing up. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Hannah stared at him. The sunset painted her face in shades of gold and red. "I killed my husband," she said. "In my heart, I killed him. That don't go away." "You survived your husband, and whatever guilt you're carrying, we'll carry it together. You ain't got to bear it alone anymore." "You really believe that?" "I really believe that." Hannah closed her eyes, took a deep breath. "Yes," she said quietly. "Yes?" "Yes, I'll marry you." She opened her eyes, smiled through her tears. "Yes, I'll stay. Yes to all of it." Caleb kissed her, long and slow and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, Grace was standing in the doorway, Lily beside her. "Well?" Grace demanded. Hannah laughed. "Yes, Grace. I said yes." Grace's face lit up like sunrise. She ran to them, threw her arms around them both. "We're staying," she said. "We're really staying." "We're really staying." "Forever?" "Forever." Caleb pulled back, looked at his soon-to-be daughter. "If that's okay with you." Grace grinned, the first real grin he'd ever seen from her. "That's very okay with me. Pa?" The word hit him like a freight train. Pa. He'd never thought he'd hear that word again. Never thought he'd deserve to hear it. "Pa," Lily tried it out. Smiled. "I like that. Pa." Caleb gathered them all close. Hannah, Grace, Lily. His family. Ruth started crying inside. Hungry, demanding attention. "I'll get her," Grace said. She ran inside. "She's going to be a good big sister," Hannah said softly. "She already is. And you're going to be a good father." "I'm going to try." Caleb pulled her close. "That's all I can promise, that I'll try. Every day." "That's enough." Hannah rested her head against his chest. "That's more than enough." They stood together on the porch, watching the sun sink below the horizon. A new life, a new family, a new beginning. It wasn't going to be easy. Caleb knew that. There would be hard days ahead. Days when the past came rushing back. Days when fear got the better of hope. But they would face them together. And that made all the difference. That night, after the girls were asleep, Caleb found himself standing in front of the nursery door. Hannah came up behind him, slipped her hand into his. "You don't have to do this tonight." "I know." He stared at the door. "But I think it's time." "Are you sure?" "No." He laughed softly. "But Grace said something to me. She said maybe it won't hurt so much if somebody's there with me." "Smart girl." "She gets it from her mother." Caleb reached out. His hand hovered over the handle. 8 years. 8 years of grief locked behind this door. 8 years of memories he'd been too afraid to face. He turned the handle, pushed the door open. The room was dark, dusty, frozen in time. Sarah's rocking chair sat by the window. Emma's cradle in the corner. Tiny clothes folded on the dresser, never worn. Caleb stepped inside. His breath caught. It still smelled like her. After all these years, it still smelled like Sarah's lavender soap and the pine needles she'd hung from the ceiling for good luck. "Oh, Caleb." Hannah squeezed his hand. She was so excited. His voice was barely a whisper. "She spent months getting this room ready. Sewed every stitch of those clothes by hand. Said our daughter was going to be the best-dressed baby in Wyoming." He crossed to the cradle, touched the edge. I built this myself. Took me 3 weeks. Sarah kept saying it was too fancy for a baby, but I wanted... He stopped, swallowed hard. I wanted everything to be perfect. It is perfect. It's empty. Caleb turned to face her. It's been empty for 8 years, and I couldn't change it, couldn't touch it, because as long as this room stayed the same, some part of them was still here. Hannah stepped closer. They're still here, Caleb. In your heart, in your memories. That don't go away just because you changed the room. I know that now. He looked around, at the cradle, the clothes, the rocking chair. Ruth could use a cradle. Caleb, you don't have to. I want to. He took her hands. I want Ruth to sleep in this cradle. I want Lily and Grace to wear these clothes for their dolls or their own babies someday. I want this room to be full of life again. I think... His voice cracked. I think Sarah would want that too. Hannah pulled him into her arms. I think she would. They stood there for a long time, holding each other in the dusty nursery, letting the past and the present blur together. Thank you, Caleb whispered. For what? For helping me open this door, for being here, for... He pulled back, looked into her eyes. For giving me a reason to live again. Hannah smiled, soft, full of love. Thank you for saving us, all of us. You saved me right back. They walked out of the nursery together, closed the door behind them. But this time, it wasn't locked. This time, it was just a door. And behind it, not grief, but possibility. Not an ending, a beginning. Lưu ý: viết 3.500 đến 4.000 từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện. Pha hội thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước, không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch. Sử dụng câu chuyển tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột. Không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ. Phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ. Giọng văn giàu cảm xúc, chân thực và gần gũi. Không mô tả cảnh, tập trung vào hành động, cảm xúc và tâm lý nhân vật. Viết phần 5 đạt điểm 10 trên 10 và bổ sung tiết tấu câu chuyện. Nhanh. Sửa lỗi a ôi, kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ độ kịch tính, không viết lan man. Kết thúc dùng câu khẳng định mạnh để khép lại câu chuyện, rõ ràng, trọn vẹn. Lưu ý, trả lời cho mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang mục document. Mỗi 2 đến 3 phút cần có mini climax và đạt 10 đến 15 mini climax mỗi phần. Cứ 10 đến 12 phút có một twist lớn sâu sắc, đan xen mini cliffhanger mạnh hơn. Tăng tính tự nhiên cho phản ứng của các nhân vật, thêm nhịp điệu kịch tính, thực tế và gần gũi. Mỗi 8 đến 10 phút cần có móc giữ chân khán giả. Lưu ý, không mô tả cảnh và chỉ cần viết nội dung và viết đúng lệnh nhé. Show more. 14 giờ 17 phút. Orchestrated final story arc với emotional beats, twist và resolution hoàn chỉnh. The user wants me to write part 5 of the story, which should be the final part. Breakthrough or the resolution/new beginning section. Key requirements. 3,500 to 4,000 words. Seamlessly connected to previous parts. Third-person narration. American storytelling style with emotional, authentic voice. No scene descriptions. Focus on emotional actions and character psychology. Mini climax every 2 to 3 minutes. 10 to 15 mini climaxes. Major twist every 10 to 12 minutes. Mini cliffhangers throughout. Audience retention hooks every 8 to 10 minutes. No bullet points or subheadings. End with a strong affirmative statement to close the story clearly and completely. Written entirely in English. Don't describe scenes, only write content. Answer in message, not document. This is the final part, so I need to 1. Connect seamlessly from part 4, the proposal, opening the nursery door. 2. Show the wedding/marriage. 3. Show the adoption of the girls. 4. Time skip to show their new life. 5. Perhaps a new baby. 6. Resolution of all emotional threads. 7. Strong, conclusive ending. Let me write this part with the emotional beats, mini-climaxes, and proper pacing. The circuit preacher came 3 weeks later. Reverend John Whitfield arrived on a gray February morning, his horse steaming in the cold air. He was a thin man with kind eyes and a voice that carried across prairies. "Caleb Weston," he shook Caleb's hand. "Been a long time since I married anyone out here. Good to see this old cabin full of life again." "It's been empty too long," Caleb agreed. Hannah stood in the doorway, Ruth in her arms. Grace and Lily pressed close to her sides. She wore a blue dress made from fabric Caleb had bought in town, the first new dress she'd had in years. "Ma'am," Whitfield tipped his hat, "I hear there's a wedding to perform." "There is," Hannah smiled, nervous, hopeful. "If you're willing." Willing and honored. Doc Thornton arrived an hour later to serve as witness, along with Mrs. Abigail Finch from the general store. She'd been suspicious of Hannah at first, but had warmed after hearing the full story of Marcus Cole and the trial. "You picked a good one," Mrs. Finch told Caleb quietly. "That woman's got steel in her spine. She'll do well out here." "I know." Caleb adjusted his collar. "I'm the lucky one." The ceremony was simple. Spoken in the cabin's main room, with the fire crackling warm and winter light streaming through the windows. Hannah's voice was steady. Caleb's cracked twice. Neither of them cared. "Do you, Caleb Weston, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "And do you, Hannah Cole, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Hannah looked at Caleb, her eyes bright with tears. "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Whitfield smiled. "You may kiss your bride." Caleb kissed her softly, tenderly, aware of their audience. Grace giggled. Lily clapped her hands. Ruth, not understanding but sensing the joy, gurgled happily. "Now for the other matter." Whitfield pulled papers from his satchel. "I understand there's an adoption to finalize." "Yes, sir." Caleb took Hannah's hand. "I want to legally adopt Grace, Lily, and Ruth as my daughters." Whitfield looked at the girls. "Do you understand what this means? Caleb Weston will become your father in the eyes of the law. He'll have all the rights and responsibilities that come with it." Grace nodded solemnly. "We understand." "And you consent to this?" "Yes, sir." Grace's voice was strong, clear. "We want Caleb to be our pa. We want him to be ours forever." "And you, Lily?" Lily looked at Caleb, then at her mother, then back at the preacher. "I want pa to be my real pa," she said. "Not just pretend." "This will make it real," Whitfield assured her. "As real as anything can be." Lily grinned. "Then yes, I consent." The papers were signed. The Reverend declared it official. And just like that, Caleb Weston went from being a man alone to being a husband and father of 3. After the preacher and witnesses left, the new family sat together by the fire. Lily had fallen asleep in Caleb's lap. Ruth was nursing contentedly in Hannah's arms. Grace leaned against her mother, fighting to keep her eyes open. "We should put them to bed," Hannah said softly. "In a minute." Caleb looked down at Lily's sleeping face, at Grace's drooping eyelids, at Ruth's tiny fingers curled around Hannah's thumb. "I just want to remember this, all of us together, a real family." "We are a real family." Hannah's hand found his.
We have been since the beginning, since you found us in the barn, since you chose to save us instead of leaving us there." "I didn't choose," Caleb said slowly. "It wasn't a decision I had to make. I saw you there, and helping was the only thing I could do. Like breathing." "That's love," Hannah smiled. "That's what love does."
It makes the right choice feel inevitable. Grace stirred against her mother. "Mama, can I ask Pa something?" "Of course, sweetheart." The little girl sat up, rubbed her eyes. "Pa, can I call you Pa now, since you really are my daddy?" Caleb's throat closed up. He had to swallow twice before he could speak. "Yeah, Grace, you can call me Pa."
"Pa,"
Grace tested the word, smiled.
"I like that."
"Me too," Lily mumbled, not quite awake.
"Pa."
Hannah was crying again. Caleb was pretty sure he was too. He didn't care. "Come on," he said, his voice rough. "Let's get you girls to bed." He carried Lily to the nursery, the room that had waited so long for children to fill it. Hannah followed with Grace and Ruth. They tucked the girls into the bed that had been Emma's, that would have been Emma's, that now belonged to his daughters.
"Good night, Pa."
Grace's eyes were already closing. "Good night, sweetheart."
"Pa?"
Lily's voice was drowsy.
Will you be here in the morning?
"I'll be here every morning, I promise."
Good.
She smiled, snuggled deeper into the blankets.
I love you, Pa.
Caleb's chest cracked open. "I love you too, Lily. All of you. More than you'll ever know." He stood in the doorway, watching them sleep. Hannah slipped her arm through his.
"How does it feel?"
she asked quietly.
"Being a father again?"
Caleb considered the question. He thought about Emma, about the 2 days he'd had with her, about the 8 years of grief that followed. He thought about Grace, Lily, and Ruth, about the weeks they'd been together, about the lifetime stretching ahead. "It feels like coming home," he said finally. "Like I was lost for a long time, and now I'm found." Hannah leaned her head against his shoulder.
"Welcome home, Caleb."
"Welcome home, Hannah." Spring came slowly that year. The snow retreated inch by inch. The creek thawed. Birds returned. Life stirred after the long winter's sleep. Caleb taught Grace to ride properly. Not just walking, but trotting, cantering, even short gallops across the open meadow. She took to it like she'd been born in the saddle. "She's a natural," Doc Thornton said during one of his visits. "She's got a future as whatever she wants to be," Caleb replied. "That's what matters." Lily, not to be outdone, insisted on learning too. She was too small for the saddle alone, so Caleb let her sit in front of him while he rode, her small hands on the reins, pretending to steer.
I'm a cowgirl,
she shrieked with delight.
Look, Mama, I'm a cowgirl.
Hannah watched from the porch, laughing. Her hand rested on her belly, just beginning to swell with new life. Caleb had nearly collapsed when she told him. "You're sure?" he'd asked, his voice shaking. "The doctor confirmed it this morning." "But after Emma, after everything, I thought so too." Hannah took his hands, placed them on her stomach. "But life surprises us, Caleb. It breaks us, and heals us, and surprises us in ways we never expect. Another baby, another chance." Caleb had wept that night, harder than he'd wept in 8 years, letting go of grief he didn't know he still carried. One evening in late April, Hannah found him standing by the cottonwood tree. Sarah and Emma's graves were decorated with fresh wildflowers, the first of the season. "You still visit them," she said softly. "Every week." "I wouldn't want you to forget." Hannah came to stand beside him. "They were part of your life,
part of who you are. I don't need you to erase them to love me. I know. Caleb turned to look at her. But I needed to tell them about you, about the girls, about the baby. I needed them to know I'm happy again. Are you happy? Caleb thought about the question. He thought about the cabin that no longer felt empty, about the sound of children laughing in rooms that had been silent for years, about Hannah's smile, Grace's determination, Lily's joy.
Ruth's first steps. About the life growing in his wife's womb. A gift he'd never expected. Yeah, he said. I'm happy. Happier than I ever thought I'd be again. Hannah slipped her hand into his. Together, they looked at the graves, at the names carved into simple wooden crosses.
Thank you, Hannah said quietly, for sharing him with us.
For a moment, Caleb could have sworn he heard Sarah's voice on the wind. Warm, laughing, the way she'd always laughed.
Take care of him, the voice seemed to say. He's stubborn, but he's worth it. I will, Hannah whispered, as if she'd heard it too. I promise.
They walked back to the cabin hand in hand. Grace was teaching Lily to read on the porch. Ruth sat between them, chewing on a wooden block Caleb had carved for her.
Pa!
Lily jumped up.
Grace says I'm doing good. She says I'll be reading real books by summer.
That's wonderful, sweetheart.
And Ruth said her first word today.
Caleb's eyebrows rose.
She did? Tell him, Ruth. Tell Pa what you said.
Ruth looked up, grinned a drooly grin.
Pa,
she said clearly.
Pa, Pa, Pa.
Caleb's legs went weak. He crossed the porch in 2 strides, scooped Ruth into his arms. Say it again, baby girl.
Pa.
Ruth patted his face with her chubby hands.
Pa.
Hannah was laughing and crying at the same time. Grace was beaming. Lily was bouncing up and down.
She said it. She really said it. Her first word, Hannah wiped her eyes. Of all the words she could have said, she chose Pa.
Caleb held Ruth close, breathed in the baby's smell of her, felt her small heart beating against his chest.
Pa,
Ruth said again, more softly this time. Then she stuck her thumb in her mouth and laid her head on his shoulder.
I love you.
Caleb whispered into her fine hair. I love all of you. So much it scares me sometimes. Don't be scared, Grace said. She'd come to stand beside him. Her hand found his.
We ain't going anywhere. We're family now.
Family stays. Family stays, Lily echoed, grabbing his other hand. Hannah wrapped her arms around all of them, pulled them close. They stood there on the porch, tangled together. 5 people, soon to be 6, holding on to each other like the world might try to pull them apart. But it wouldn't. Not anymore. The baby came in early September. Hannah went into labor at dawn. Caleb sent Grace riding for Doc Thornton. She was the best rider now, fast and fearless, and spent the next 8 hours pacing the cabin like a caged animal. You're gonna wear a hole in the floor, Mrs. Finch said. She'd come to help with the birth and was currently keeping Lily and Ruth occupied in the kitchen. I can't just sit here. Then go outside. Chop wood. Do something useful. Caleb chopped enough wood to last 3 winters. He was on his 100th swing when Grace came running. Pa, come quick! The axe fell from his hands. He ran. Inside, Hannah lay in their bed, exhausted, radiant, and in her arms, a baby, red-faced and squalling. Perfect. It's a boy. Hannah's voice was weak but triumphant. Caleb, we have a son. Caleb's legs gave out. He sank to his knees beside the bed. A son. Do you want to hold him? Hannah placed the baby in his arms. So small, so fragile, so alive. Caleb looked down at his son's face, at the tiny nose, the clenched fists, the downy hair. "Hey there," he whispered. "Hey there, little man. I'm your pa." The baby opened his eyes, dark blue like all newborns. But Caleb could swear he saw Sarah in them, and Emma, and all the lost dreams that had somehow found their way back to him. "What are we going to name him?" Grace asked. She'd crept into the room and was peering at the baby with wondering eyes. Caleb looked at Hannah. "We talked about this," he said. "If it was a boy—" "Thomas," Hannah nodded. "After my father. The only man who was ever truly kind to me before you." Thomas. Caleb tested the name. "Thomas Weston."
"Can I hold him?"
Grace asked. "Sit down first." Grace sat on the edge of the bed. Caleb carefully transferred the baby to her arms. "Support his head. That's it. Good." Grace looked down at her baby brother. Her face softened in a way Caleb had never seen before. "He's so small." "You were that small once." "I don't remember being that small." "None of us do. But we all start small. Then we grow." Lily appeared in the doorway, Ruth toddling behind her.
"Is the baby here?"
Lily demanded.
"Can I see? Can I see?"
"Come here, carefully." Lily climbed onto the bed, peered at the baby in Grace's arms. "He's wrinkly." "All babies are wrinkly," Hannah laughed. "I wasn't wrinkly." "You were the wrinkliest baby I ever saw."
"Was not."
"Was too." Ruth reached up, trying to see. Caleb lifted her onto the bed beside her sisters.
"Baby,"
Ruth said, pointing.
"Baby, baby, baby."
"That's right," Caleb smiled. "That's your baby brother, Thomas."
"Thomas,"
Ruth tried.
"Tom."
Close enough. Grace looked up at Caleb. Her eyes were bright. "We're a real family now," she said. "A big family, with a mama and a pa and 4 kids." "We've been a real family since New Year's Eve," Caleb said. "Since I found you in that barn." "I know, but now it's official," Grace grinned. "Now we've got a Weston baby. A real one." "You're all real Westons." Caleb sat on the edge of the bed, gathered them close. "Every single one of you. Blood don't make a family. Love does. And I love you, all of you, more than anything in this world."
"Even more than the horses?" Lily asked.
"Even more than the horses.
"Even more than pie?"
Even more than pie."
"Wow."
Lily's eyes went wide.
"That's a lot of love."
Hannah laughed, then winced. "All right, everyone out." Doc Thornton appeared in the doorway. "Mama needs rest. You can come back later."
5 more minutes,
Grace pleaded. "Now, young lady." Grace sighed, carefully handed Thomas back to Hannah.
"I'll take good care of him, Mama," she said solemnly. "I'll teach him everything, how to ride and read and—"
"I know you will, sweetheart." Hannah kissed her forehead. "You're the best big sister in the whole world." Grace beamed. Caleb herded the girls out of the room. At the door, he turned back. Hannah lay in the bed, their son in her arms. She looked up at him, smiled.
"Thank you," she said softly.
"For what?"
"For saving us, for loving us, for giving us this life."
"You saved me right back." Caleb's voice was rough. "Every single day, you saved me right back." He closed the door gently, stood in the hallway, let the reality wash over him. A wife who loved him, 4 children who called him Pa, a home full of laughter and noise and life. 8 years ago, he'd buried his heart in the frozen ground beside his wife and daughter. Now it was beating again, stronger than ever. That night, after everyone was asleep, Caleb walked out to the cottonwood tree. The stars blazed overhead. The air was cool and sweet with the smell of autumn. He stood before the graves. Sarah, Emma, two names carved in wood. Two lives he'd loved and lost. "I have a son," he said quietly. "A healthy boy. Thomas. Hannah's doing well. The girls are—" He laughed softly. "The girls are the best thing that ever happened to me. Besides you." He knelt down, touched the grass that had grown over the graves. "I never thought I'd be happy again. Never thought I deserved to be. But they came into my life, Sarah. They came like a gift I didn't know I needed. And they showed me that love don't run out, that there's always room for more." He paused, swallowed hard. "I hope you're at peace. I hope you and Emma are together, wherever you are. I hope you know I never forgot you. Never will." His voice cracked. "But I'm living again. Finally, after all these years, I'm living." The wind rustled through the cottonwood leaves, gentle, almost like a caress. "Thank you," Caleb whispered. "Thank you for the years we had. Thank you for Emma, even if it was only 2 days. Thank you for—" He couldn't finish. He didn't need to. Some things went beyond words, beyond gratitude, beyond grief. Some things just were. Caleb stood, wiped his eyes. Behind him, the cabin glowed warm against the night. His family was inside, sleeping, safe, loved. He walked back to them. The years passed. Grace grew into a young woman with her mother's dark hair and her father's quiet strength. She became the best rider in the territory, won competitions, earned respect. But she never forgot where she came from, never forgot the barn where they'd almost died, never forgot the man who'd saved them. Lily grew into her name, bright and beautiful and full of joy. She could charm the hardest heart with a smile, could make anyone laugh with a word. But beneath the sunshine was steel. The steel of a girl who'd survived things no child should survive. Ruth grew up never knowing any father but Caleb. She had no memories of the cold, of the fear, of the desperate flight across frozen plains. For her, life had always been warm, always been safe, always been good. And Thomas was pure Weston, stubborn, strong, kind. He followed his father everywhere, learned to ride before he could read, loved the ranch with every fiber of his being. Hannah never fully lost her fear. Some nights she still woke gasping, still reached for Caleb in the dark, still needed to hear his voice telling her she was safe. But those nights grew fewer, and the days grew brighter. And slowly, year by year, the woman who'd collapsed frozen in a stranger's barn became the heart of a home, a family, a legacy. On the 10th anniversary of that New Year's Eve, Caleb gathered his family on the porch. The sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of gold and red. 10 years ago tonight, he said, I found a woman and 3 children freezing in my barn.
"We know, Pa." Grace rolled her eyes. "You tell this story every year."
And I'll keep telling it, because it matters. Caleb looked at each of them in turn. 10 years ago, I was a dead man walking. I had no hope, no joy, no reason to get up in the morning. And then we fell into your hay," Lily grinned. "And then you fell into my hay," Caleb smiled. "And everything changed." Hannah slipped her hand into his. "You changed too," she said. "You saved us, but we saved you right back." "You did," Caleb squeezed her hand. "Every single day. You save me every single day."
"That's what family does,"
Grace said. She was holding Thomas on her hip. The boy was getting too big for carrying, but he'd never tell her that.
"Family saves each other. Family stays," Lily added.
Family stays, Ruth echoed. It had become their motto over the years, their truth. I love you, Caleb said. His voice was thick. All of you. I don't say it enough. I don't know how to say it right.
But I love you more than words can hold.
We know, Pa, Grace smiled. We've always known.
They stood together on the porch as the sun sank below the horizon. A family built not from blood, but from choice, from hope, from the stubborn refusal to give up, even when everything seemed lost. Caleb looked at them, his wife, his children, his life, and felt something settle in his chest. Peace. After all these years, after all the pain and loss and fear, peace. The cabin stood solid behind them. The land stretched endless before them. The future waited, unknown and unwritten. But they would face it together, because that's what family did. Because that's what love meant. Because some stories don't end with happily ever after. They end with, we kept going. And that, Caleb knew, was the best ending of all. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and distant rain. Hannah leaned against him. What are you thinking about? Caleb smiled. I'm thinking about a barn door left open on a cold winter night. About a prayer I didn't think anyone would hear. About 4 lives I almost didn't save.
But you did save us.
No. Caleb pulled her close, looked at his children, at the home they'd built, at the life they'd made. We saved each other. And standing there, in the fading light, surrounded by everyone he loved, Caleb Weston finally understood the truth he'd been searching for all along. Some families are born, some are made, but the best ones, the ones that last, are forged in fire and sealed with love, and held together by the simple, stubborn choice to stay, to hope, to begin again. This family was all of those things, and they would endure.